What up, rSpace fam? Welcome to another episode of r/EntitledParents, where financial irresponsibility wreaks havoc on family bonds. In this first story, Reddit user DCHolic19 gets told by their entitled parents that we're having a sixth kid we can't afford, so we expect you to give us your college fund. I, female 19, am my parents' second child. I have three brothers, 21, 13, and 7, and a sister, 16. We grew up poor, and our parents were often dependent on financial help from relatives, friends, etc. for raising us. This is because even though my dad has a mediocre job and my mom doesn't work, they just kept on popping out one kid after another. My parents are very religious and believe that children are a gift from God. Personally, I think that's total BS. My parents' reproductive choices wouldn't bother me if it hadn't caused mine and my siblings' lives to turn to shit. While growing up, we never had new clothes or toys. We had to accept handouts from family members who were better off. We never went out or did anything fun. To top it off, we were all well aware that the rest of the family looked down on us for constantly asking for handouts. Now, my older brother and I have managed to get into good colleges and are looking forward to a future that would be better than our parents' lives. He and I were staying at our parents' place for a while due to the lockdown. One morning, my parents called all five of us into the living room. My mom said she had great news. The smile that was forming on my face died a quick death when she said, "We're pregnant." I lost my temper. I asked them how they could be so stupid and irresponsible. Do they not have enough financial troubles already that they have to bring in another mouth to feed? My older brother tried to calm me down, but I was livid. After a lifetime of scarcity because of my parents' stupidity, they still hadn't learned their lesson. I asked them how they planned to provide for the kid. My dad told me I would have to give up the money our great uncle had left me. He had left all five of us some money, which only we could access when we turned 18. I said, hell no! That money would help me pay for my college expenses. He called me selfish for not being there for the family. I told him if they couldn't provide for the kid, they should get an abortion. My mom started crying and called me a heartless monster. Dad told me he was disgusted with me. I told him there was no way I was going to pay for their stupidity, and the only thing I would be willing to pay for is a termination. What I was really worried about was my siblings' lives getting even worse. My older brother and I have escaped our parents' clutches, but the others, especially my younger sister, will be expected to help take care of this baby. No teenager deserves to have their adolescence ruined by diapers and a screaming baby. I know what it's like, as I had to go through that. It was expected of me to be an unpaid nanny to my younger brothers and sisters. My older brother could go out with his friends and have fun, but I had to stay home and help give baths and feed toddlers. I decided to get some family members involved so they could talk some sense into my parents. I called my mom's maternal cousin. She's one of my favorite people. When I told her that my mom and dad were having another kid, she reacted with, "What? Again?" I told her everything and how they expected me to hand over my inheritance. She said she was going to speak to my parents and told me not to sign over anything. I promised her I wouldn't. Of course I won't. I also called two of my first cousins, one of whom is an accountant, so she could explain to my parents how much of a financial liability this baby is going to be and try to convince them to either abort or give it up for adoption. I moved out of my parents' home a few days ago. I was only going to stay there till the lockdown was relaxed, but I just can't bear to listen to my mom's nagging about how this baby is a blessing and that I want to kill it. I've moved into a friend's basement for a minimal rent. My mom's cousin paid them a visit about a week ago and tried to tell them that they weren't doing this child any favors by bringing it into a life of poverty. My mom was very rude to my aunt and told her that a woman who chose to remain barren will never understand a mother's love. My aunt never wanted kids, nor had any, one of the reasons she's my fave. My dad told her to get out. Aunt told me there was nothing she could do, but she did try. I don't blame her. The cousin tried to explain the economic impact this kid would have, and my mom cried about how everyone was trying to take away her baby. What the f***? The intervention didn't do f***. So now, I've decided to cut contact with my parents. I just can't watch my family slide further and further into a hellhole. I'll be maintaining contact with my sister, 16, just to make sure my parents can't brainwash her. My older brother is going to stay in touch with all of them, which is a good thing, as he can act as a link between me and the other siblings if my parents ever forbid them from talking to me. Otherwise, I'm done with these people. I applaud you, OP. You don't owe them your college fund? They made their bed, they can lay in it. You might want to discuss with your siblings about signing anything over to their parents if the uncle left all you some money. In this next story, an entitled mother demands her daughter pay for her brother's terrible life choices. Background. My husband comes from a poor background, as in he could not attend college because he had to take up a job. in our country's defense forces the moment he was 18. I, on the other hand, come from a middle-class family, as in could attend college and even have a master's degree, but nothing super fancy. We were married, arranged marriage, when I was 24 and he was 25. Before our marriage, all my husband's salary went directly to his family. That means 7 years of income, people, a major part of which actually went to his brother-in-law as he was too special to find a job. Also could not keep one for longer than a year. When I came to my husband's house, my brother-in-law already had 4 children with his wife pregnant with the 5th. My brother-in-law's credit was a mess as he had taken multiple loans for funding his alcoholic, holier-than-thou lifestyle, and my husband was a complete pushover with no spine of his own to speak up for himself. It took me 2 years and a toddler, blessed with a baby boy, to force him to grow a spine as he now had a family of his own and he needed to care for it. I had to make him understand that he can no longer send 90% of our income to his brother and force us to brink of bankruptcy as his brother cannot afford his own lifestyle. Slowly and slowly, my husband stopped sending them any money and his parents had enough income to maintain themselves, and it was high time for his brother to get off his lazy ass and do some shit. Main story. Now this is the main event that took place about 5 years ago. When my husband was 30, it forced us to go no contact with my in-laws and a major part of my husband's family. My brother-in-law now had 5 children, blessed with all girls, was on the brink of bankruptcy, and had already used a major part of the inheritance that he was going to be passed down from his parents. This interaction took place on my first 2 nieces' wedding. They had a joint wedding and reception as brother-in-law didn't have the money for 2 separate weddings. Entitled mother to husband. You should start helping your brother again as he is having a lot of troubles with funds lately. Husband. We're in a pretty tight spot ourselves, Mom, especially with Ellen, me, pregnant, with a second child. Entitled sister. Well, then you should help your brother even more as you know what it feels like to be with a pregnant woman. After all, we are also expecting. Me. What? You're pregnant again? My actual words. Entitled mother. What do you mean, daughter-in-law? Aren't you happy? It can actually be a boy this time. Not everyone is as lucky as you who gets a boy on the first chance. Me flabbergasted. What the fuck are you talking about? I won't treat a daughter any differently than a son. Entitled sister. Well, you can say that since you already have a son. Husband. I don't care about my brother's and his sister's lifestyle choices, but I can't share any more money with them, as I have my own family now, and we have to save to buy a house, start a son's college fund, etc. Entitled mother. You don't have any right to speak about your brother like that. He is trying to improve. A lie. He also has responsibilities. Me laughing. Haha, yeah, right. As if he knows what responsibilities are. Entitled sister. You bitch. Her actual words. You dare speak about my husband like that? Everyone was now looking at us. She gets into my face and actually tries to punch a very pregnant me. Husband, stopping her mid-air. You dare? She's pregnant, and even if she wasn't, how could you think that you could punch her? Me, shocked plus angry. We shall leave now. I don't think we are welcome in this wedding anymore. Husband follows me without speaking any other thing. We got many vile and abusive messages and even threats from his side of the family on how we spoiled our niece's marriage and how family always comes first. Fortunately, we had never given my in-laws our address, and even if they could get it somehow, no one would have had the money for the plane ticket as we lived at the geographically opposite corner of the country at that time. Also, we have shifted twice since then and have blocked out most of his side of the family, leaving out some of his sensible cousins and uncle and aunts, and informed everyone on my side of the family, plus our friends, to maintain absolutely no contact with them. I'm so glad your husband was able to take your side. I can't imagine being expected to pay for my siblings' irresponsibilities. Your husband's family are now missing out on the joy of your children all by their own doing. I can imagine your life is much happier now. In this last story, an entitled sister wants all of the trust funds to be given to her kids because she is a single mother. My parents died when my siblings and I were very young. Their estate was divided equally into 3 separate trusts for our education. Anything left over after graduating would be paid out when we turned 25. I watched my siblings squander theirs by falling out of college, renting needlessly expensive apartments, and getting pregnant twice. While they're doing all right now, neither had anything left in their trust by their 25th birthdays. I applied for multiple scholarships, lived with roommates, and worked through school. Even with my master's degree, I still have more than half of my trust. I turned 25 recently and have been planning to buy a house. I mentioned this to my brother, who was surprised to learn I had enough money left to do so. My sister was more than surprised. She was furious and called me to rant about the unfairness of it all. She felt cheated that her baby sister might buy a house before she did because she needed it more as a single mom. I guess I threw fuel on the fire by reminding her that we had the same opportunities but made different choices. Somehow, that turned into me looking down on her kids and hating my nephews. Since then, she has roused the rest of the family against me. I owe her and my brother financial help, because apparently that's what our parents would have wanted. I blocked my sister's number after she demanded I give the rest of my trust to her kids. The grandchildren our parents would have wanted. I told her it was laughable to consider that our parents would be happy about their daughter getting pregnant at 20 and dropping out of school. She called me a bitch. Everything is falling apart now. I feel hunted. Wow, the entitlement is strong in this chick. Good for you for sticking to your guns on this one. It's not your fault she chose to squander her money and you saved it.